Hello and welcome back to Rogue Trader. Last time we spoke to everybody at our party for our ascension to the throne, but we didn't speak to the Master of Ceremonies to tell him the party was over. So, Master of Ceremonies, the party is over. I hope your lordship is pleased and not yet tired. If you wish to revive yourself a little, I would suggest proceeding to the courtyard. If I may be so bold, many guests have chosen to move into the fresh air and will be eager to offer you their congratulations. What do you think of the reception? It is magnificent. I dare say it will live on as the premier high society event of the sector for many years. I am weary and wish to retire to my chambers. Please allow me to escort you, your lordship. Your chambers are ready, your lordship. Also, that line about going outside makes me think that originally it started you inside, but people didn't realize there was stuff outside, so they only put you outside but didn't change the line. Oh, hello. That's my chair. Guards, intrude. Quiet, time to sleep. We need to talk.
We have matters to discuss, von Valancius.
Apparently they will be doing the voices, which is great. The same man you saw among your guests is waiting for you in your chambers with the look of someone who is supposed to be there. He casts a cold, assessing gaze over you from top to bottom. No one save Theodora has ever allowed themselves the liberty of looking at you in such a way. The woman behind Kalkazar, clad in black armor, glares at you, her face set in predatory readiness for immediate violence, the hallmark of a professional bodyguard. Will my servant live?
Probably. Unless he suffered from hidden ailments, he will soon come to without any major damage to his health. Either way, oblivion is a far safer option for him than the dangerous privilege of being a witness to this conversation.
Oh, interesting. So people can't know we're having it. So many things running through my head right now for what this could be about, but please continue. The woman at Kalkazar's back gives you a bloodthirsty smirk. Okay. Oh, that was Heinrichs who said sleep. It suddenly clicked. Oh, okay. Interesting. How do we want to handle this? If the Inquisition wishes to have a talk with me, I am glad to be at its service.
A commendable openness to cooperation. It will be taken into account.
The Inquisitor's sharp gaze is fixed on a point directly between your eyes.
Master Van Kellox has spent enough time with you. He will vouch for your words. What stands out from your recent accomplishments is the suppression of a rebellion on Janus, the battle against the archenemy's minions on Kiava Gamma, and, of course, the unusual interest the Drakari have shown in you. Then that is what we will discuss.
After saying these words, he shoots you a searching look from under his brows, like a regicide player who just made the first move and is now watching for his opponent's reaction. Regicide being space chess, I believe. Well, where are we going to start? This feels an awful lot like an interrogation.
Does it? We're in your chambers, not a confessional cell. You're in perfectly good health, and none of the varied and fascinating instruments and procedures that expedite candor are being applied to you. I assure you, you would immediately know if our discussion turned into an interrogation.
Okay, how do we want to handle this? I think we go for a good news sandwich, right? We go Kiava Gamma. That's the best news, right? That's our base. We got rid of the heretics, everything's fantastic. By the way, if you were wondering, yes, I do say sandwich a bit weirdly. It should be sandwich, obviously, but, you know, whatever, we'll move on. We've gone over that in the past. Then I think we then say Janus, we stick that in the middle, and then we end with the Drakari. I think that's the correct order of things here. but we'll see. What questions could you have for me about Kiava Gamma?
Places touched by chaos must be purged with fire and condemned to oblivion. Kiava Gamma should have been bombed to dust and pronounced a forbidden world. However, you decided otherwise and restored the colony's operation. And you didn't even go to the trouble of hiding the traces of the neglect committed by your dynasty. After all, it was House von Valancius that gave Cubis Delphim so much freedom that he sank into seditious heresy. What was your rationale?
Okay, so it turns out that our first piece of bread is just more filling and the whole thing is ruined, but let's move on from the analogy. How do we want to handle this? So, if I erred, I'm willing to repent and cast the colony into fire. We are not willing to do that. I wish to observe how the seeds of corruption will behave. We are not willing to say that. So, let the priesthood to which Cubis Delphim belonged answer for his crimes. The Adeptus Mechanicus would do well to watch their members more closely. Shift the blame. I had the feeling that might work, but we would lose respect with this person. Truly, I must confess, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. My servants usually handle such matters. Feigning ignorance? I don't think that's gonna fly. Well, I think that means we have to say number 1. My protectorate is a complex machine. I wasn't willing to put its performance at risk because of some paranoid fears.
Your protectorate is a living body, and you have left in it a splinter that might eventually fester. Consider the scale of amputations that could come of it.
Okay, I think this went well. We've said our reasoning for it, and he's explaining why our reasoning may not be good, but we are not getting arrested by the Inquisition. That's a positive. We'll get to Janus later.
I hope you realize that we're talking about more than the fate of some colony. I care not for a single planet, however profitable and populous. But should corruption raise its head again on Kiava Gamma and try to spread, I will burn it away. And you will be guilty of criminal negligence.
Okay. He's basically said, you've made your choice, but if your choice goes south, I will implement my solution. How did you come to be so remarkably well informed?
Are you surprised? You thought the Inquisition was unaware of the circumstances of your deeds. How often do you find yourself thinking that there are things we shouldn't know about your life?
I mean, to be fair, Heinrich's probably sent an email after each mission saying, yeah, here are the problems.
It is my job to know everything, and I do it very well. Keep that in mind.
Alright. What do you wish to know about the events on Janus?
What was the reasoning behind your decision to let Xenos, enemies of humanity, live and act on a planet that belongs to you?
Yeah, that's a difficult one to answer, huh? That's one where the answer isn't good. Well, number 1 is lie. I get the feeling that's just not gonna work. In the face of heresy, the Xenos seemed like acceptable allies to me. There have been precedents for this, correct? Or I have the right to strike deals with Xenos. Are you challenging my privileges as a rogue trader? Ooh. How do we handle this? So obviously 1 is out, right? Do we say that they seemed like acceptable allies in the face of heresy? Or do we say that it is our right, and actually our rights supersede his Inquisition? Like, our warrant of trade gives us the ability to do things that he may not want us to do. That's an interesting way to handle it. I think we go 2. We don't want to be abrasive with this guy. We want an ally of the Inquisition, I think. I think that is beneficial to us. I think we have Heinrichs at the front when we had our ceremony. We have publicly made the Inquisition our ally. I think privately we would like that to be the same thing. In the face of heresy, the Xenos seemed like acceptable allies to me. There have been precedents for this, correct?
Your way of thinking is curious. Dangerous, but curious nonetheless. I would suggest exercising utmost caution should you wish to continue on this path.
Interesting. So, he has not said that there is anything wrong. In fact, he seemed to like that better than Kiavagama. He simply said that our way of thinking is curious, and that he is, he's in a way accepting it. He's saying, suggest exercising utmost caution on should you wish to continue on this path, right? He's saying he would be cautious. He's not saying don't do it. That is interesting. If you knew about what was happening on Yanis, why didn't you intervene yourself?
I cannot satisfy your curiosity without disclosing information of the utmost secrecy. I will say only this. We had the situation under control. There is a tangled knot of perilous events in progress in the Koronus Expanse. Plucking even one thread must be performed with great precision and caution without any room for error. Because you do not want to know the price of such an error, or what forms it might take.
Okay, so this guy didn't come here to talk about Kiavagama. This guy didn't come here to talk about Yanis. This guy came to talk about the Drukhari. Now we know, as in us, not our character, know that the Drukhari was responsible for the events of Act 1. Our character actually doesn't really fully understand it because we didn't have the same conversations. We know a little bit of it because we got some afterwards, but if we had had those conversations in Act 1, we would know a little bit more. We also have encountered the Drukhari in Act 2, and they have quite clearly got an interest in us. So, I think he wants to talk to us about the Drukhari, because I think that they are going to be set up for the thing we have to deal with first. The Drukhari have shown an interest in me. Are you referring to my ruined capital?
Yes. The enmity between you is a known fact. But there is another way to look at it. On Veabos 6, you met the Archon of a mighty cabal, whose presence there seems strange to begin with, and lived. You subsequently encountered a number of her closest henchmen. Yet, again, you survived. Your capital fell victim to a nefarious attack, but even this time, their daggers missed your heart. Such remarkable luck. To be a personal enemy of such an influential Xenos, to have been attacked so many times and yet make it out alive. So remarkable that one has to wonder, am I watching a spectacle? Could all these thrilling massacres be an alibi of sorts, meant to establish you once and for all as an enemy of the Xenos and never their ally or even their agent?
Interesting. So, we got a lower Imperium check. How difficult was this, by the way? Just out of curiosity. This was a 0 difficulty. Wait, I'm just checking here. Yeah, I think that this was a 0 difficulty one. Yeah, as in it was a pure dice roll. Okay, and you needed to. Is your skill value in there? Yeah, so because there's no plus or minus, this was purely we needed to roll 100, right? But we then had 110 as skill value, and that allows us to auto pass. So if this was 100, this is a difficult lower Imperium check to do. Okay, that changes things slightly. So the first one is, they made more attempts on St. Drusus's life than mine. Does that make him a traitor too? That's an interesting argument, right? It's basically saying, okay, you got something, but, I mean, Drusus is a saint, and you're not accusing him, so why is this different? I'm waging war on the Xenos. I don't think we are. What can I say? I'm lucky that's the reason I'm alive? It's a little bit too flimsy. I do like 4. I admit no guilt, but I agree that it does seem suspicious. I mean, that's interesting. That's basically, I think he would respect that answer. And I think we would choose that answer if this was an easy check to get. But because this is a difficult check to get, at least if you have a lower skill value, right, you have to invest it to get this check passed. I think I'm going to say this because I want the reward that we're getting out of this. I think that this is a good enough answer, and because of the skill check, I think it's going to lead to a more interesting conversation.
So you already think you're cut from the same cloth as St. Drusus, do you? Ambitious? I'll make note of it.
You found it funny. Okay. So that wasn't what you wanted to talk about really either. Have I answered all of your questions?
Far from it, my dear. The questions are manifold. How did you manage to survive the battle that claimed the life of Theodora, who was so much more experienced and skilled than you? Is it a coincidence that you and you alone then made it out of the trap on Rycat Minoris? How much truth is there in the rumors being spread by the heretic Kunrad Voidvir about you?
Uh-huh.
Was it virtuous of you to allow the warp-stricken Voidsmen to join your crew? The ones who served on the ship that was turned into a trap for you by Kunrad Voidvir? Isn't it possible that they were part of the blight he had sown?
That is so long ago, I honestly barely remember it. I mean, I guess we did, didn't we? Okay. We are going through all of our choices, and we are getting judged.
The very existence of these questions would have made many of my colleagues doubt the quality of your character, but it won't in this case. The Inquisition, which I represent, is willing to show extraordinary faith in your person. For the sake of our invaluable partnership, I'm going to ignore any minor liberties that you, esteemed rogue trader, may have afforded yourself or may again in the future.
Interesting. I wonder how this conversation goes if Heinrichs has left your party at this point, right? Because presumably he leaves your party because you're too heretical. Presumably at this point you're getting a very different conversation, maybe even with a different person.
I hope you appreciate the generosity of this offer, as your predecessor once did.
Theodora cooperated with you?
And benefited greatly from it. The world's power is not without limit, and neither is the protection it provides. All those mysterious expeditions, dubious experiments, collections of xenotech oddities are dangerous pastimes. It takes more than the Emperor's permission to pursue them without consequences. One must also make sure I am not displeased by it.
That's an interesting position he's taken here, isn't it? He said the Emperor's word is not enough. You also need my word. Where he is putting his word on the level of, if not above, the Emperor's word. That's an interesting thing. I wonder if they're going to pull back on that at some point.
Let me demonstrate how it works. In your retinue, there is a Psyker who is yet to receive Terra's sanction, which, as we both know, is a grave threat and a blasphemy to the laws of the Imperium. I am aware of this secret, but I'm not displeased in the slightest. And so she lives on, your handy Psyker, Idira Tlass.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. I know Theodora was concerned about the fate of the dynasty and certain restricting obligations. Was it perhaps due to your partnership with her? I cannot deny the possibility that Lady Theodora may have lamented losing some of the freedom she enjoyed prior to my arrival in the Expanse. Nor will I deny that our partnership began with me exerting a certain amount of influence. Kalkazar gives you a sharp look. However, you are not Lady Theodora. Let us put the difficulties that encumbered our relationship to rest along with her. I do not recommend troubling yourself with affairs of the past, for they have no bearing on your present position. Theodora chose to forget about this particular matter. Follow her example and your fate will be the better for it. Why such an interest in my person?
You haven't been in a position of power for long, and so one can forgive you for not noticing the troubling changes. The cult of the Final Dawn is spreading in the Koronus Expanse. Not the first or the last heresy that has afflicted this sector, but one that is surprisingly resilient. Mysterious convoys are sliding by, bound for systems in the heathen stars. Just your humdrum pirate trade, wouldn't you say? Then why are the pirates themselves clueless? The Xenos, who have caused trouble in the sector before, have expanded their activities in the last few decades, and there is a logic and method to their previously chaotic raids. Even 2 packs of space wolves, blessed space marines summoned in my name, did not cool their interest in the Expanse.
Intriguing. Okay, so he's the one who got the Space Marines here. And Space Wolves is interesting because it triggers a little something in my head about a certain person on the box art for the game.
A mighty explorative fleet, which has studied the Expanse for hundreds of years, has suddenly stopped responding to communication and sunk into a dispute over a tech heresy that was considered dead a couple of centuries ago. House Chorda has clamped down on insurgents, yet its acts of brutality breed troublemakers just as quickly as they're executed, and this bloody carousel has consumed the attention of the esteemed incendiar. Corligos Winterscale has abruptly lost all interest in his domain, and his only apparent concern now is hunting even more dangerous xenobeasts. And the third and final rogue trader has unexpectedly perished, stabbed in the back by her own master of whispers. The Expanse is swiftly losing its protectors right when communication with the Imperium is being disrupted by the raging warp. Basically, all the Expanse has left is me and you, if you follow my instructions.
Okay, I'm not going to say number 1, because again, an alliance with this guy is better than an abrasive relationship. Is Heinrich staying in my retinue, or are you taking him back?
Which would you prefer? And you, Heinrichs, do you wish to continue working at the Honorable Rogue Trader's side?
Now, I don't know if this is specifically this situation, but a few times in the conversation, he said a lot of words differently to how every other voice actor in the game has said them up to this point. It's interesting. Because, and it's specifically interesting, because in roughly the same point in the game, in Wrath of the Righteous, which is their previous Pathfinder game, they had a character introduced. I think it was the Queen of a nearby realm or something. Oh, I can't quite remember the role the character had. But it was a similar, large, high ruler kind of character. And then they also came in and just pronounced every word incredibly oddly. I just think maybe it's something to do with how they're doing these big moments. They're getting in a voice actor from maybe outside the usual voice acting pool, and I think from what I can tell, they're just giving them the script and saying go for it. And usually the voice acting is really good. It's just very oddly pronounced compared to everything, because it kind of sounds like they're just letting them at it. Like one take, get through it, that's it. It's just an interesting similarity I noticed between the two games.
I will comply with any order, Lord Inquisitor. If you command me to remain in the company of the scion of the von Valancius dynasty, I won't be distressed.
I want Heinrichs to continue to accompany me. I'm not going to ask whether he's a useful assistant to have, I know.
Then Master Van Kellogg's will remain in place. It puts me at ease to know that there is someone to watch over you.
Kalkazar's last remark sounds ambiguous.
I consider it an honor to accompany you.
Okay. What kind of deal are we talking about?
I make no deals, and Emperor forbid that I give you orders. That would mean infringing on your privileges. I'm merely offering well-meaning recommendations and expecting that, when the Expanse finds itself in danger, you will break away from your own affairs to heed them. I seem to remember that your exalted aristocrats presented you with many gifts. It would be rude of me not to follow suit. Please accept this gift as a sign of my favor. In an hour of need, give it to any faithful servant of the Emperor, and the Inquisition will come to your aid.
Kalkazar removes a signet ring from his finger and hands it to you. You notice an intricate personal coat of arms on it. Okay. So, I played enough RPGs at this point. I'm wondering whether this is going to lead to like an end-of-game thing where you have to collect your allies and go off and fight the final boss with all of your allies being able to be called in using the items they've given you, or whether this is something much more specific.
The color indicates how close the bearer is to the Lord Inquisitor. Scarlet means that you have shed your blood for the good of the Imperium, and therefore, you deserve to have his servants shed their blood for you.
Oh, okay. The ring symbolizes its owner's closeness to the Lord Inquisitor, which inspires the owner's companions and adds weight to their orders. The wearer gains 25 persuasion and the Inquisitor's Decree ability that can be used once per combat. Inquisitor's Decree grants 30 momentum. Burning, bleeding, and toxic effects are removed from all allies. All allies gain the wearer's persuasion divided by 7 temporary wounds, and the wearer's persuasion divided by 7 armor until the end of combat. That is insane! That's so good. I hope we can give that to Cassia. Okay. See how we want to handle this. If you want me as your ally, you can request an audience and repeat everything you just said in public. He's not going to do that. I don't want to have dealings with you. No. I see no reason to refuse such a generous offer. We can make it more official. Or is this ring all the favor that House von Valancius can expect from the Inquisition? Let's ask it. Well, Scarlet means you've shed your blood for the good of the Imperium. I was also just looking at this here. What's he given us? And therefore you deserve to have his servants shed their blood for you. I think that he has given us something that is very worthwhile, right? I think that if we say this is all the favor that we can expect, he's going to be a little insulted. Now, I think that this is a bit much. I think that giving the Emperor Protect speech to him is probably not going to be what he needs. I do like that there's a dogmatic thing here, and I can see that it's effectively a level up on that one. I think I see no reason to refuse such a generous offer as a fair thing to say, with a smile. This is not an official agreement, this is an informal agreement.
Then we have reached a consensus, and I am pleased to see it. Here is where we part. My shuttle is waiting. It is time for me to return to my watch, for you to sleep, and for your servant to wake up. Until next we meet.
Okay, 210 experience and the end of the conversation.
Well, you will obviously want to discuss what just happened, but not now, I presume. Right now, it would be better for you to rest and think on the Lord Inquisitor's words in private. I bid you good night, rogue trader.
For the first time during the entire exchange, emotion creeps into Heinrich's face. He looks like someone who is expecting an unpleasant conversation. Huh. Interesting. Okay. That didn't go as badly as it could have. That seemed quite amiable. You have completed Chapter 2. Alright.
The rise of the rogue trader heir restored a tenuous equilibrium to the von Valancius Protectorate. For a time, threats subsided, activity returned to trade routes, and reclaimed worlds began to heal. new Lord Captain's subjects praised the God Emperor and their leader wholeheartedly. For none knew what fate might await them.
Okay. We going right into it, or are we doing a time skip? Right into it, it looks like. I think. Yeah, so it's just the next morning. The way they were presenting it there, I was wondering if they were going to be like, and you ruled over the dynasty for 6 months, and then... But no. Okay, chapter 3. Those were definitely Drukhari ships we saw there. Huh. I was also thinking, the way that that was framed, you almost could have had that as the end of the game had you had a more impactful final fight, right? If you had there be like a climactic moment, and then the final conversation basically be a little bit more definitive as to what you were doing forward, and sequel base it, but yeah, we're carrying on. Obviously, I mean, it's only Act 3, but you get what I'm saying. If this game was another game, that could be how it had ended, but anyway. You have spent the first few hours of your morning listening to the High Factotum's lengthy report on the latest trade exchanges, arrangements, disputes, and countless bureaucratic procedures. From outside the illuminated, tightly closed windows, you can hear the muffled sounds of Dargonis and its everyday life. The life that has been passing you by lately, as you have been preoccupied with the affairs of your protectorate from dawn till dusk. Maybe there has been a small time skip, unless that's meaning what we did by going backwards and forwards across the Expanse. Clementia barely contains a yawn. Once Yanis Danrock has finished, she pulls out her data slate. Oh, there you go! I just saw it on the side. I've lost track of how long I've been trapped on Dargonis for the good of the protectorate. Oh, okay, so there is a time skip. Interesting. Or, I don't know how long of one, but at least something. Thank you for your report, High Factotum. Your work is highly appreciated, both by everyone here and the Adeptus Administratum. Your Lordship, we are almost done here. We just need to go over the final items on today's agenda that I would like to report to you personally. Okay. Next. Allow me to pass on gifts from your loyal subjects, the high nobility of Dargonis. It goes without saying that every living soul on your protectorate is blessed to serve your lordship faithfully and wholeheartedly. However, this humble gesture is meant as a token of deepest appreciation of your magnanimity towards their esteemed families. In this past cycle, House Drivestem tripled the tithes collected from the house subjects. Your coffers are overflowing, and the governor has expressed hope that this modest gift will become a symbol of your present and future successes with your new status. 3 profit factor gained. Lord Captain, news of particular import has come from the house's intelligence network. Lord Inquisitor Kalkazar is rumoured to be planning a visit to Footfall. A number of Imperial Navy ships were commandeered by Lord Kalkazar, and they are also being scrambled to Footfall. Furthermore, we've received reports claiming that secret messages were delivered to the capital worlds of House Chorda and Winterscale. It is possible the Lord Inquisitor's call to arms may smother the conflict that is brewing between the two dynasties. We are seeing an increasing number of skirmishes between their ships in neutral systems. I do not doubt that her ladyship Chorda will attempt to sway the Lord Inquisitor to her side. Especially since his lordship Winterscale's luck seems to be running out. Riots have broken out on several of his worlds, and yet he has shown no intention of quelling them. Instead, the rogue trader inflicted brutal punishment upon one of his oldest colonies, Vesuvia Secundus, based on allegations of seditious sentiment. Oddly enough, our agents were unable to find any proof of sedition among the populace there. As soon as we have any updates, you will be the first to know, your lordship. Clementia glances down at her data slate. Lastly, your pet Xenos, Erlet, I believe is seeking a meeting with you. She had the audacity to defile the rogue trader's palace with her profane presence, and refuses to leave until she has spoken with you. I would never presume to be able to read the emotions of Xenos, but the Eldari appeared perturbed. I believe she mentioned a voidship of some sort. It may be best if she told you everything directly. And with that, please allow me and Master Danrock to take her leave. The Chancellor and the High Factotum offer you their bows. Wait for news from the Von Valancia spies, it says at the top there. Interesting. Perhaps that last request will serve as a welcome distraction. Indeed, your lordship's stay on Dargonus has been rather long. However, your protectorate is now enjoying a period of relative stability that, for the time being, no longer demands your lordship's personal involvement in its affairs. Glory to the rogue trader. Okay. So yeah, we've been at peace in Dargonus for a while. Huh. Anything new here? Nope. Interesting. So we don't know how long we've been here, but it's been a while. Well, we should probably speak to people, but I think that this is the perfect point to end the episode. Thank you very much for watching. Going into Chapter 3, time skip, there's a few different things brewing. We have the Lord Inquisitor's army, or I guess I should say navy, being built up at Footfall. We have Chorda and Winterscale having a little bit of a skirmish in neutral systems. Interesting. I like the way that this is progressing, actually, for Act 3. I definitely felt, as I was saying there, that Act 2 could have been the end of a game, right? If you put a little bit more gravitas and panache at the end of it, that could have been the end. So, it makes sense to have it feel final and then do the time skip. It's basically saying, okay, you solved your problems. There is no reason for you to be out here. They're not saying, like, a new area has opened over here for you to explore, right? Which they could have done. They could have been like, we heard reports of a Xenos in this territory. Go investigate. 15 more worlds open, you go around the worlds, and then another story event is activated, right? They could have done that. Instead, what they've done is they've said, okay, you've been everywhere you can go. We're going to time skip. Things will have advanced everywhere that you've been. And then we're going to open up this new conflict between Chorda and Winterscale, which I assume is going to drag you into their realms. I think that's an interesting way of doing it. So yeah, I'm happy and I'm excited to try out Chapter 3 next time. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.